Hello everyone and welcome to my channel where we make videos about ASMRs and also do storytelling from time to time. You can go ahead and check out my channel in the previous videos, and if you do like those kind of videos, feel free to subscribe. And of course, if you enjoy them, leave a like, a comment. If you have any constructive feedback, I would definitely enjoy that. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's video. I do want to warn you guys that this story does get a little graphic towards the end or in the middle, so I just wanted to give that fair warning. So let's go ahead. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the main protagonist in this story. His name is Luka Magnotta. He does go by the short version of Luka Magnotta, but his original name, his birth name, is Eric Clinton Kirk Newman, and he was born in Canada. So he was actually born on July 24th, 1982 in Scarborough, Ontario, Canada. Luka actually had schizophrenia since 2000, so that makes him 18 years old when he was diagnosed with schizophrenia. So that is something that he dealt with throughout his years of life. He also had a prior conviction in fraud. It actually happened in Toronto in 2005 and was sentenced to community service and probation, which obviously wasn't too long. Throughout his years of life, Luka did have a lot of different jobs, and one of the main ones was that he was a male model as well as an escort. And this was one of his main sources of income throughout his life. If you go through YouTube, you can actually find him, Luka Magnotta. You can find many videos of him being interviewed by modeling agencies, and you can sort of get this very scary energy from him where he does feel more of a narcissist. You can tell that he likes to show a lot of glory to himself. And he was very, very self-conscious. As you can see, he did have a lot of different cosmetical operations on his face. For example, like lip filler, which was very obvious. So he was someone who did care a lot about his own image, and he liked bragging about it. Now let's go ahead and talk about some of the earlier incidents that happened with Luka. I think one of the biggest ones was when he did post a video of himself killing kittens, which was obviously quite sickening. You can probably find the video on the internet, but I highly suggest you don't watch it as it is extremely disturbing. And basically, to illustrate, he basically put baby kittens inside of bags and suffocated them for no reason at all. Basically out of pleasure. It seemed he did get some sort of pleasure of killing little animals, which you'll see then escalates to humans, unfortunately. Now that we're done talking about Luka Magnotta, let's go ahead and go into the story that put his name on international headlines. Unfortunately, it does lead to the death of another individual, another man. So let's go ahead into it. So at 11 a.m. on May 29th, 2012, a package that contained a left human foot was delivered to one of the main offices of the Conservative Party of Canada. So this is a political party that is obviously in Canada. So you can imagine the shock that they were in when they opened the package and found the human remains. And it didn't stop there, as Luka also did mail out another piece of the body to the Liberal Party of Canada, which contained the left hand of the murdered individual, but it was intercepted in a Canada Post processing facility, so it never reached the political party. And another package that contained the decomposing torso was actually found by a janitor, so you can imagine the shock of him as well when he discovered the package. This package was left inside of a garbage pile in the alley behind an apartment building in the area of the Snowden area in Montreal. So can you imagine being a janitor and finding a human torso? I can only imagine the amount of stress that came onto the janitor. You're probably thinking, that's all, right? That's all he did. No, it gets worse. He had the audacity to mail another package on June 5th, 2012, which contained the right foot and was delivered to St. George's School. And another package that contained a right hand was delivered to False Creek Elementary School in Vancouver. After all these body parts were being mailed out to different political parties and elementary schools across Canada, the police, of course, intervened. Unfortunately, after the DNA testing, the police were able to identify the body to belong to Jun Lin. And on June 6, 2012, Jun Lin's family arrived at Trudeau Airport in Montreal, where a candlelight vigil was held in Montreal. Later on, the police received an anonymous tip, which helped them recover Jun Lin's head, which was found laying at the edge of a small lake in Montreal's Agrigan Park. And on July 11th, Lin's body was burned at his funeral and his ashes were buried in the Notre Dame de Neige cemetery in Montreal. Jun Lin, also known as Justin Lin, was born on December 30th, 1978, and he came from the city of Wuhan, China. And he had come to Canada in 2010 with the intention of starting a new life and becoming a student here. In 2012, he registered as an international student and an undergraduate in the engineering and computer science faculty at Concordia University in Montreal, Quebec. Lin had been studying in Montreal since July 2011, previously attending Tara College, a language school, and he worked part-time as a convenience store clerk in Point St. Charles, and then he later on moved to the Griffintown area where he lived in an apartment with a roommate on May 1st, 2012. Lin, who was a gay man, had at some point been married to a woman, though they later divorced. While he was in Canada, he had lived with another Chinese man, but Lin had never revealed his sexual orientation to his family in China, even though they had met his boyfriend. And shortly before the murder, Lin's relationship with his partner had ended because Lin was experiencing pressure from his family to settle down and marry a woman, which ultimately ended in his demise. After Lin broke up with his boyfriend, he had been using Grindr and other web applications to meet with other men. Magnotta later on does mention that he met Lin after he had responded to his Craigslist ad proposing sex and bondage. And that is basically how Jun Lin and Luka Magnotta met. Lin was last seen on May 24th, 2012, and his friends reported getting a text message from him at 9 p.m. Later on, 3 of his friends went to his apartment on May 27th. He was reported missing to the police on May 29th, so that's 2 days after. The last images showing Jun Lin alive were taken by a surveillance camera on the night of May 24th, 2012, where they showed Lin and Magnotta entering an apartment building where Magnotta lived. Now, I need to warn you guys, this is where it gets a little bit disturbing, and on May 25th, 2012, an 11-minute video titled One Lunatic, One Ice Pick was uploaded to bestscore.com, depicting a naked male tied to a bed frame being repeatedly stabbed with what appeared to be an ice pick, which was later on revealed to be a screwdriver, and with a kitchen knife, he then dismembered the body, followed by acts of necrophilia. Unfortunately, it does get worse, as Luka uses a knife and a fork to cut some of his flesh off, and he even gets a dog to chew on the body. During the video, the 1987 New Order song True Faith plays in the background, and a poster for a 1942 film Casablanca is visible on the wall. Canadian authorities obtained a much more extensive and elaborate version of the video, and it's said that cannibalism may have been performed. Materials promoting the video appeared online 10 days before the murder took place, and several hours after killing Lin, Magnotta booked a round-trip ticket for a flight from Montreal to Paris using a passport with his own name. So he was out of there. And to make matters worse, on May 26, 2012, an attorney from Montana attempted to report the video that was on best score to the Toronto police and the local sheriff of his town, also the Federal Bureau of Investigation, also known as FBI. But the report was dismissed by officials, and best score viewers also attempted to report the video. And police later on did confirm it as authentic and identified the victim as an Asian male, and the same individual whose body parts were sent to Ottawa and those elementary schools across Canada. And as you guys recall earlier, the janitor that discovered the decomposing torso inside of his suitcase, in that same apartment, the police started to investigate and search the area, and police were able to find human remains. They found bloody cloths, papers that identified the suspect, as well as sharp and blunt objects. And they also were searching the back alley. And after they did that, they searched the surveillance cameras inside of the building, which showed the suspect bringing numerous garbage bags outside, and the images matched the suspect who was captured on the video at the post office. The police then did a search of Magnotta's apartment which he was renting, and he had paid it up until June 1st. The apartment had mostly been emptied out before he left, but they were able to find blood on different items, including the mattress, the refrigerator, the table, and the bathtub. There were other things that the police did find inside of the apartment, which was actually writing that was found inside of the closet, which wrote, "If you don't like the reflection, don't look in the mirror. I don't care." It was written with red ink inside of course, the closet. After this, the Montreal police issued out an arrest warrant for Magnotta. That was later on upgraded to a Canada-wide warrant by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. They accused him of the following crimes: first-degree murder, committing an indignity to a dead body, publishing obscene material, mailing obscene, indecent, immoral material, and criminally harassing Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper at the time and several unnamed members of Parliament. And on May 31st, 2012, Interpol issued a red notice for Magnotta at the request of Canadian authorities, and for several days before and after his arrest, his name and photo were displayed predominantly at the top of the homepage of the Interpol website. Now let's get back to Luka. So, he did book a round-trip flight to Montreal to Paris on May 25th, and he was using his own passport with his own name. And after arriving in France, his cell phone signal was traced to a hotel in Magnotta, where he had left before the police could arrive. And when the police arrived, they found pornographic magazines and air sickness bags all over the room. Magnotta then boarded an Aerolines bus at Magnotta coach station bound for Berlin, Germany. And thankfully, on June 4th, 2012, Magnotta was apprehended by the Berlin police at an internet cafe in the Neukölln district. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. And he was reading stories about himself. And he also tried giving fake names before admitting who he was. So this goes back to what I was saying, where he's a narcissist. He was reading up on himself, even though they weren't even positive articles. It was just talking about his murder. So he was definitely a very sick person, or still is. And on June 18th, 2012, Magnotta was delivered to the Canadian authorities in Berlin and flown abroad a Royal Canadian Air Force CC-150 Polaris to the Maribel International Airport north of Montreal. A military transport was reported by the government to be necessary due to the safety concerns with using a commercial flight and potential legal difficulties if the plane was diverted to another country. He was then placed into solitary confinement at the Rivers de Paris Detention Center. After a 12-week trial, which included 10 weeks of hearing testimony, the jury of 8 women and 4 men received final instructions from the trial judge on December 15, 2014. They did return the verdict that he was guilty on all charges, and Magnotta would serve a mandatory life sentence and will be eligible for parole after 25 years. He was also sentenced to 19 years for other crimes to be served concurrently. that's pretty much all for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed the story. Obviously, it wasn't a good story. It was a tragic story, but justice was served, and I hope he stays in jail. If you want to see more videos like this, or if you just enjoy ASMR videos in general, or soft-spoken videos like this, you can definitely check out my channel. I do have lots of other videos, and if you do like it, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, comment, and I hope to see you guys once again. Have a good night. Bye bye.